Hello, back into the 1999 series of movies for our season 6 of the Rewind Project.
Oh, that was very tentative, but yes, all of those things are correct.
My brain kind of like stopped for a second. I'm like, how do you introduce these again?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
One of the things that happened in 1999, Y2K panic. Like, I seriously remember this.
I remember where I was on December 31st, 1999. I was at a party. I went to a huge New Year's Eve party because obviously most people were having giant New Year's Eve parties because Millennium, Y2K, whatever. And we were all sort of like we were all very drunk, but we were all sort of on tenterhooks the whole night because we thought like something catastrophic was going to happen, when the clock struck midnight, and clearly nothing did. So
like planes are supposed to fall out of the sky.
Yeah, like your clocks were not going to work. Like it was just going to be like a whole like basically, I don't know if you've read the awful book Stephen King's Cell, but it's basically like what happens, when like everything just kind of dies and you're left, like in this wasteland. It's like Mad Max.
Well, so for those of our younger listeners who might not understand this, yes, many computer programs in the 20th century represented 4-digit years with only the final 2 digits, so making 1900 indistinguishable from 2000. Da, da, da. Apparently, the people that developed computers didn't think they'd be around for a while, so I don't know.
Guess, or just didn't have the forethought. I don't know. I'm not a computer programmer.
It was all written in 8-bit code too originally, so maybe there wasn't enough room for 4 digits. I don't know. So we'll throw that out there. In 1999, there were many predictions that worldwide infrastructures would just topple on January 1st, 2000.
I mean, it was a true panic. It was a true, clutching your pearls moment.
But I mean, things were still going to be there. It's like you could still go to the store. We still had cash. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if the computers toppled today, it would be far worse.
We'd be real fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Bar none.
My phone, I'd just be like, but how do I find anybody anymore? Because I don't know their numbers.
I don't know if you have AT&T, but I do. And when I was in New Orleans, that's what during the AT&T crash just a few weeks ago. And I thought it was just because I was in I wasn't home. So I was in a new place. And so, sometimes your service is bad. And it wasn't until I got back on Wi-Fi when I got back to my hotel that I was like, oh, this is real bad. And you couldn't do anything. It's crazy.
It's kind of scary. I guess that's the new way to attack too. The new attack vector would just be to take out communication satellites, because then all information, it's not just phones, are gone.
Yeah.
The strange thing is everybody actually kind of banded together and got the thing freaking fixed. In fact, few major errors actually took place. Although many argue that this is primarily due to the preemptive action of many computer programmers and IT experts, which I know because IT people get shit done. So,
they do.
Yeah.
When I start a new job, I make friends with the accounting person, the IT person, and the receptionist. Done and done. Because those are the people that are going to get shit done for you at the office. Those are the
people that grease the wheels.
Correct.
Okay? They make everything move.
Right.
President Bill Clinton, who had organized efforts in the U.S. to upgrade, called Y2K the first challenge of the 21st century, successfully met.
I mean, okay, fine, Bill. You didn't do anything, but okay, that's fine. I'll take credit for it.
And then he turned around and sucked Bill Gates' dick. So thank you, Bill.
Yikes. We're getting spicy this morning.
I'm sorry. I feel like a lot of the success of the United States around Bill Clinton's era should be lauded to Bill Gates instead, because Windows created a massive technological industry and influx of money. For good or for worse, of the way that Bill Gates operates as the owner of Microsoft. Microsoft made America a shit ton of money, and we has placed us in the lead technologically right now in the world because of it. So just saying. Bill Clinton did a lot of good things for the country though too. So but a lot of our success financially is due to Bill Gates, per my opinion.
Yeah, and Bill Gates is laughing all the way to the bank.
Yes, he is.
Welcome to the Rewind Project, where Allie, Matt, and Eric take another look at your favorite milestone movies through the lens of our present day. Will it be a skip, rent, or buy? Stay tuned and find out.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rewind Project. I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
And we have one of our favorite special guests on today, Mr. Joe Prince.
Hi. It's been a minute.
Joe, we're delighted to have you back. It has been a minute, and we're delighted to have you back.
I'm just glad that I'm no longer canceled by this podcast, because it is one of the last bastions in my life where I'm not canceled, and it just feels good to be back.
You're not. I'm so glad that this podcast has such a high place in your life.
You might have to take my place because I might get canceled for the opener, so you never know.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting canceled.
Well, that's a disappointment.
Nobody's getting canceled. Yeah, I know. Rah. I'll be a little bit more bitchy maybe later.
Maybe you
can
just slowly replace me, Joe, and then kill me in a boat.
Speaking of both bitchy and being slowly replaced, today we are talking about The Talented Mr. Ripley, a fascinating film from 1999, screenplay by the late, great R.I.P. Anthony Minghella. Your legacy lives on in your really fucking hot son, Max. Based on, I find him so attractive, based on the 1955 novel of the same name by one Patricia Highsmith, and also directed by Anthony Minghella. I don't remember anything about this movie except I knew it was shot in Italy, and I knew that there was a boat. Outside of that, not a single recognition.
Yeah, I went through my ticket collection. I keep all of my movie stubs, and I definitely saw it in early January of 2000, and I remember nothing of it. I do remember the commercials made it look like it was like a thriller, or like a real suspenseful film, and I was expecting, heart-pounding action throughout. And I think I remember being slightly disappointed. But I was also 22 years old, and you're really dumb when you're 22.
Well, also, you were still getting over surviving Y2K.
Oh my God, you're right. I was.
I'm sure that
it was only like
in.
7 days after Y2K, and so I was still, recovering from that. Yeah, good point.
I had a totally different experience in the theaters watching this movie because I was still a closeted gay and watching this movie.
Oh, this is a gay awakening?
No, this was not a gay awakening. I knew I was just closeted. This was a traumatic viewing because I was like watching this movie, like feeling very close to Tom in this movie, and I was just like, this is too much. Because I wasn't expecting. I didn't know the gay twist in the movie. They don't tell you that in any of the trailers, and I was like, no. It was traumatic and gearing.
So I definitely want to hear your experience 25 years later watching it, for sure. No, I'm being legit. Like, I think that's fascinating.
Still traumatic.
I mean, as a 22-year-old, I think I had a thing for Jude Law. I still kind of do. He's super, super hot. And so
yeah,
I'm sure that when I saw him in 2000 portraying a gay man, that was enough. That was enough screen time for the spank bank for, months after seeing the movie.
Well, Jude wasn't gay.
No, he wasn't.
Dickie
he
wasn't
definitely
gay.
had a shirt off for most of the movie. And
the tub scene.
Yeah. Him getting out of the tub.
The chest scene is The chest scene is hot. Yeah. I will say that. We'll get into that. Okay, so this movie had a lot of notable achievements. Like, it went on for a couple of pages on Wikipedia, but it just highlighted they got a ton of nominations for lots of different things: Golden Globes, Oscars, BAFTAs, all the top joints. Not a lot of wins, but for the Golden Globes, they were nominated for Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Actor for Matt Damon, Best Supporting Actor for Jude Law, Best Director, and Best Original Score. And then for the Oscars, they were nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Jude Law. I didn't remember him getting an Oscar nomination, but good for him. Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Art Direction, and Best Costume Design.
All well-deserved. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel solid about those choices.
I actually am surprised that Matt Damon wasn't nominated for an Oscar. I thought that his acting he embodied that character, and you can see when he shifted from one persona to another. You could see him calculating as he navigated all of the intricacies that he wove himself. I thought it was a really solid performance by him.
Yeah, I would totally agree. He was really good. And like even doing the imitations, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Why doesn't he do this in more of his movies? Because this
Right?
Yes.
Like, why didn't he like star on SNL? It was kind of crazy how he did that. So the plot: in late 1950s New York, a young underachiever named Tom Ripley is sent to Italy to retrieve Dickie Greenleaf, a rich and spoiled millionaire playboy. But when the errand fails, Ripley takes extreme measures, da, 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 aka spoiler, killing literally everyone in the house. That is what I don't remember. I did remember that he killed Dickie. Did not remember all of the ancillary murders that he committed. Not one shred of recognition.
I remember him killing Dickie too. I didn't remember how gruesome it was. I was shocked at how.
Or I didn't remember that.
When Dickie looks up and he looks fine for a minute, and then all of a sudden, like this opening forms in his face, and the blood starts pouring down. That was really an intense moment of the film.
Yes. But it also, like, I mean, one, it was a crime of passion. Like the first one, he didn't intend to do. It was not calculated. It was a mistake. And there's reason for Jude Law to jump on him because now he feels rightfully attacked and is like now fighting for his life. And so the two of them have this huge, massive struggle. Every other murder after that was calculated.
Every other murder was like, you guessed what I'm doing, so I'm going to have to kill you.
I'm not going to jail.
It reminded me a lot of... And how he avoided it was the scene in the Venetian police department was so... That had my heart pounding, how he feels trapped, and you worry... It was weird worrying about him when he's, the bad guy.
Oh, we're gonna get into that.
I was gonna sneak out of that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. All right, let's get into this extremely hot cast. I texted Joe in the middle of watching this, and I said, I think every single person, every main character in this movie is at the pinnacle of their hotness, like in their lives. Do you agree?
Yes.
Agreed.
Like, even Gwyneth Paltrow, who I don't love, she just looked so beautiful and sun-kissed and gorgeous, and just like that sort of like ease of rich people when they can afford like the right clothes. And she like obviously is a rich person herself, both as a movie star and as a person. So like she fit into that kind of so well, and just everybody looks so good. Even Matt Damon, even though I thought that, did he have prosthetic teeth?
I think his head just is narrower because he's younger, so they look bigger.
He might have.
I need to look that up. I felt like he had a lot of teeth. And I'm going to spoil my own fun fact, but he did lose 30 pounds for the role, so maybe that's what it is, and maybe that's why his teeth look so big in his face. I don't know. That was a little distracting at the beginning for me.
The green bathing suit, man, was he fucking ripped. Holy cow, when he walked out onto the beach. Jeez.
He had like an 8-pack. Well, let's just get into it. Matt Damon as the titular Tom Ripley. So good.
I'm not into abs and muscles. Like, give me a dad bod any day of the week. But when Cate Blanchett's character, what's her name? Meredith, when she's watching him undress in the room, and you see him from her point of view, and he kind of turns into a profile, and that chest. Holy
yes!
Good Lord. And again, Matt, as you brought up, when he steps out in that bathing suit and you can see his package neatly cupped in that bathing suit, and his chest is so ripped. Good God, he looked good. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, it's like one of those like secret hot bods, because he's kind of wearing just like normal clothes, but kind of doubting, nothing form-fitting. He doesn't really have a shirt off like Jude Law does. And then when you see him in that bathing suit, you're like, oh shit, you go to the gym. Like, didn't predict that. I didn't remember that. And I was like, he's got like a 16-pack,
And his final his final tub scene with Gwyneth too, like where he loses the towel, and you're like, you get to see a shot of his cute butt too, and it's like, damn, yeah, he's got it all going on. Mm-hmm. Outside of his body, though, I thought his performance was actually amazing. Like, he was really good. He changed personalities, like we said earlier. You can see from this sweet person to this person that's in charge when he's pretending to be Dickie as opposed to being Tom. There's a definite change in his mannerism. And for some reason, when he's Dickie, he gets hotter. Like, it's not just taking the glasses off. It's like belief in himself or something, or the character. And like, there's like a visible change in a hotness level. Like, he's somehow channeling Dickie, like Jude Law. It was really crazy.
I'll tell you what I think it is, Matt. I think it's because Dickie is so confident as a person. And when Tom becomes Dickie, he also absorbs that confidence. So that's really well played out in the opera scene where he has to switch between these two personas so quickly. And you see how he sucks himself into the Tom shell when he's having the conversation with Marge, and his uncertainty in navigating that conversation is mostly fear driven because he's worried that he's going to get caught. But then he so seamlessly slips back into the Dickie persona when he comes back to
Meredith.
Why do I keep forgetting her name? Meredith.
Meredith.
And just confidently says, let's go for a carriage ride.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. And that is Dickie. That he is Dickie.
Yeah.
Wild.
He was a phenomenal performance. It really was.
Which I don't know who else was nominated for Best Actor that year. I think Kevin Spacey won for American Beauty. But he could have taken anybody's place. I'm going to IMDb it while we talk.
Yeah, it's funny because I like Matt Damon a lot. I thought I love Good Will Hunting. I thought that was a great movie. I don't think of him as like an amazing actor though, for some reason, and that's just my own bias. But he's solid. He's solid, but not like I'm not like, oh my God, that was a great Matt Damon performance.
Said no one ever.
Sorry, that's just my truth. But he was really good in this movie, and yeah, like just changing personas and sort of trying to navigate this new world that he knows nothing about but wants to aspire to so bad. And like the cringiness for me, the secondhand embarrassment of him not knowing, like just like all of the social mores that, rich people just automatically know, or like people built into that stratosphere. I was like, like I like to think that I'm like a fake rich person. Like I think that I would like come in right pretty easily if I were to suddenly become rich, because that's how I think of myself in my head. But like he just had no idea, and I thought it was interesting because at first Jude Law's Dickie, who we'll get into in a couple minutes, kind of takes pity on him and is sort of sympathetic, but then is very cruel. And I just was like, Matt Damon, what are you doing? So I thought that part was really good.
When he gets caught dancing in Dickie's clothes in the room, that secondhand embarrassment was unbelievable. Oh my God. Just real quick, back to the Academy Awards that year.
Yes.
Kevin Spacey won for...
Please, Joe, fill us in.
Kevin Spacey won for American Beauty. The other nominees were Denzel Washington for The Hurricane. I guess that was the boxing movie. I barely remember it.
Oh, I think
Richard
so.
Farnsworth
Sure.
for The Straight Story. Russell Crowe for The Insider. And Sean Penn for Sweet and Low Down. A movie that I did see and really like, but I would say... based on that, none of these are particularly memorable, whereas Matt Damon's performance was more than memorable.
Yeah, that's crazy. That Richard Farnsworth, I don't even know that movie or that character or that actor. I've never even heard of that before.
Seriously.
Justice for Matt
You need
Damon
to
is what we're saying.
retroactively give him the Oscar.
Agreed.
Yes, all Matts matter. Okay, next up, Gwyneth Paltrow as Marge Sherwood.
I always really liked Gwyneth Paltrow. I even liked Sliding Doors. I hated the movie Bounce, but I thought she was good in it. All the movies prior to maybe like, what was that Sky Captain movie? and she was good in that. And then as she left acting, she became kind of forgettable, and then like absolutely nuts, you know.
And then kind of insufferable, yes.
Yeah, insufferable and nuts. But I always liked her as an actress, and I think in this movie she embodies the character with the sweetness that it needs. And I agree, Allie, she's stunning. You can almost count the freckles on her sun-kissed Italian face. She's just beautiful. But what I really appreciated about her is in this movie is she gets Margot's physicality, the way she moves with this effortless grace throughout the Italian villa and on the boat. She takes that rich person who has only lived this life,
correct,
and moves her body in a way that you would expect them to move, which might not have been a leap for Gwyneth Paltrow because she's been a millionaire probably most of her adult life. So
not even her adult life, like her parents are Blythe Danner.
Oh, right.
You know
Blythe
what I mean?
Danner.
Like, you know, so like she's lived that life probably since birth. So I mean, look, I don't move that effortlessly on a boat. You know, like, you know, I'm like the 2-ton, you know, Stay Puft Marshmallow on a boat, like knocking myself around. Like I think I've been on a boat like that. I don't know, 5 times in my life. You know.
0 times here.
Yeah.
Okay, Allie.
No, I thought she was great.
Pretend
I mean,
rich.
just like you said, Joe. She's kind of bananas now, but like every time you see her in a movie, I actually enjoy her. Like even I don't think she deserved an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love. I will die on that hill.
Yeah,
absolutely not. We'll die on that hill.
But she was good in the movie. Like she's always relatable in every single film that you see her in. And she was beautiful in this movie. It's funny. I was watching with a friend and I said, she looks exactly the same there as she does now. She's like one of those people that really has not aged at all. She kind of just looks the same, which is kind of crazy because it's like 25 years later. It's interesting too that you point out, I forgot that she comes from like Hollywood, you know, celebrity parents. And so used to this life, whereas like Matt Damon isn't. So like they're almost playing these characters they're relating to these characters in real life, except, you know, Matt Damon is not gay, but like his character is going from not poverty, but like, you know, a normal person's life to like wealth. Whereas her life, she's already related to her character because she's used to this kind of life, just living on the Italian coast. She's probably done that for a year, like with her parents, and like is used to all of this. So it was easy motivation for her, I think, but I did enjoy her in the film. And her change at the end when she attacks Tom, oh my God, you felt that. Oh, she was really angry. You could tell.
Yeah, I got really angry on her behalf as a woman because I was like, well, that's what still happens now is that men in positions of power are like, oh, don't listen to the hysterical female. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And when Dickie's dad was like, oh, you know, things that you say to your, you know, lover versus things that you say to your, like, your guy friends, totally different. And I'm like, oh, you motherfucker.
They were not guy friends.
So I felt her frustration, like, as a woman.
Yeah, that table scene too between the three of them, and where he just brushes her off, and you can see that she's like, "But you need to fucking listen to me." And,
right.
Yeah.
And I think the sequence where Tom is coming toward her in the bathrobe, and she's terrified, and that terror felt so pure because her character has put together all the pieces of what has happened, and that to me was one of the most transformative scenes in the movie because you also get the sense that she's going to be brushed off. She's put the pieces of the puzzle together, but because, as Allie pointed out, she's the hysterical female.
It was odd because, you know, Peter, her gay guy friend, you know, like didn't even believe her. He believes Tom instead and just kind of brushes her off as a hysterical woman. Like, and they've been obviously friends for a long time and no connection there either. It's just like, oh my God, this sucks. This really sucks.
Yup. Sure does. All right, let's move into Mr. Jude Law as Dickie Greenleaf. Woo-wee. I got not much else to say.
You know, he didn't have a full like 8-pack like Matt, but god damn was he sexy in this movie.
He's so fucking hot in this movie. When he's typing on the typewriter and he just had that like one beautiful golden curl just like coming like off of his, oh Jesus. Woo.
I I mean, in the gay world, I am very much into otters, and he is the otteriest otter
Yeah.
that ever ottered. And oh God, give me a thin furry body. Just give me a furry body any day, really. But Jude Law's
Yeah.
body, circa 2000.
Yeah,
God,
that was
damn.
you could see why Tom was into him immediately. Like
Where anybody was like, you could be,
Yeah.
I don't know, like man, woman, creature, alien, whatever.
yeah, I don't know what Tom's original plan was when he got there, but I think like the minute he hit the beach and saw him, like that's like where like attraction really hit and plans changed. I mean, if they weren't there already.
Well, and it's interesting because out of all of these people, he was probably the least known at the time. And it really did like put him into the stratosphere. And a lot of the things that I read said that he, was sort of hemming and hawing about taking this part. And then he sort of looked at it and then he realized that like this, even though basically Dickie Greenleaf dies on page 45 of the script, which also I think in the articles that I read, nobody was anticipating in 1989. Like they were like, what the fuck? The movie is like another hour, 15 minutes. Like, what are we going to do after Dickie dies? But I just think he was so good. And like I said before, just his changes from like being that very rich, always got in his way, like cruelty, just it makes you want to shrivel up and die because it's just like so cutting and easy.
He doesn't have to treat anybody nicely. When he does, you feel amazing. Like he's your best friend, but he can just say certain things and it just like just cuts you down. But you still want to love him, and you understand why all these people do. So, I mean, the conversation on the boat between Tom and Maggie, or Marge, I want to call her Maggie, Marge, like where she's explaining this and you find out she realizes that he's having affairs, but she still loves him and stays with him. And even though he's being a cad, you kind of understand why.
Well, the effortlessness with which he plays that cruelty is really why I think he got and deserved the Oscar nomination, because there is a hollowness to that character. He has a life of privilege. He doesn't feel like he owes anybody anything, and that comes across. And I also think, and this is, probably a director's choice that was just integrated so well, but my favorite Tom and Dickie scene is when they're on the train to go see the jazz festival, and Dickie turns and says, Tom, that's spooky. And it turns into the drum beat of the jazz song. But I could see a character like Dickie doing that tantalizing, cruel, like, you're spooky, like really dragging out that interminable moment for Tom. Like, oh, he's kind of onto my game too.
Yeah, I think the bathroom, the turn for him was that the bathtub. There was no way to cover that up. Like, I don't care what you say.
That was naked desire.
Yeah, that was naked desire.
Quite literally.
Maybe if he hadn't been staring at his ass, like when Dickie turned around, maybe he could have got away with it. No. So like from that point on, you can tell that from that point on in all the scenes that Dickie knows, and he's kind of like, I'm trying to figure out a way to break this off and like just kind of get rid of it and brush this kid off because I've got other things and friends to do.
Well, but he also plays with him. He knows that Tom is into him, and he toys with that. And the casual cruelty behind that is just unbelievable. He invites him to a jazz concert, knowing the guy's in love with him.
That's why this is sad. I wasn't sad that Dickie got killed. I wasn't happy about it.
No.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
No, he's an asshole.
I didn't remember the whole pregnancy of, like killing herself, asking for money for an abortion line. Did you?
I did not. No, I knew that it was his kid. I didn't realize that, but that even makes him even worse because, like, I'm sorry, you're a rich kid, but you couldn't find any money to help her get an abortion, which is what she wanted. Right. That's what she's asking the money for. But no, we went and bought a refrigerator. So yeah,
right.
Or you were going to get a car. You didn't care. You didn't try to help her. So don't even pretend to feel bad, because you don't.
Oh, so nuts. So nuts. Okay. Next up, another character that I do not remember being in this movie at all is Cate Blanchett. Blanchett, is that how you say it? Blanchett. As Meredith Logue, who Joe can never not remember her name.
And yet, I think that she was such an amazing character, and Cate Blanchett. She could read a recipe book and would still act the shit out of reading a recipe book and feel believable. I mean, I'm a sweet tart all the way.
I do.
Allie, you know what I mean with a sweet tart. But I think Cate Blanchett is probably one of, if not the most versatile actresses of our generation. I think she is just unbelievable in every role I've seen her in, even the like forgettable roles. And this is one where, again, she plays a wealthy person who navigates the wealthy world really well, and all of her side glances and her being both wooed and being curious and also suspicious by it. It was her facial expressions kind of give away the character, and I think it was a beautifully subtle performance.
What I loved about it is that in all the things that I read, Anthony Minghella was so excited that she wanted this kind of small part that he wrote extra scenes for her. So it was supposed to be, just like a really tiny part. But when he realized that Cate Blanchett was like, I want to play this part, and like it wasn't obviously the star, it wasn't even really a supporting actor, he was like, okay, and this character doesn't exist in the book. So Anthony Minghella so I also read that. I have not read the book, but I do want to read it. But that, so he had leeway to just sort of write extra scenes for her. So so it was supposed to be like kind of a nothing character, but when he scored Cate Blanchett.
Interesting, because like her character is adds such interesting twists to the movie. Like the initial one where he pretends to be Dickie, and like which kind of starts this whole end cavalcade. I mean, you kind of get an idea of like who Tom is. You're like, oh, okay, wait. So Tom isn't. I mean, is he pretending here? What's going on? Like, you know what I mean? And then, but when he gets back out, like he's not pretending to be Dickie. That was just kind of a fun thing for him, or was it? We don't really know what his end game ever is because of his initial meeting with Meredith, and then to run into her again and then use her like he did when he met to get rid of Marge. That was genius. Like genius on this.
Genius. Like, I like to consider myself a pretty smart person, but like I definitely wouldn't have worked out a way to do that in any way, shape, or form.
I'd be like, okay, so how do I not have these two people meet and meet them both on Monday morning? It's like, and then at the very end, like this tragic ending now that she is the impetus for. Like he could have had his life been perfect and like left all this behind. It says 1950. He could have disappeared, but now he fucking ran into Meredith again. On
this fucking again on this tiny ship.
And didn't
remember that ending at all.
And she was amazing. I mean, even when she says that ridiculous line, yes, I mean, you can only really be with one of your own, like only another rich person who hates their money. You can understand the problems that you have. And I'm just like, you fuck off. But you still love her. And so...
I mean, I would give my right arm to be a lady who lunches, honestly.
Mommy and daddy.
I would cheer the shit out of some volunteer organizations. I'm already an event planner. I would plan the best fundraisers. Like,
people don't understand what the burden of my parents' money is for me. It's just awful. Oh my God.
Boo-hoo. You cry into your Tiffany bracelet. Like, come on. All right, next up, Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P., 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 as Freddy Miles. Again, another person I didn't remember in this movie. Not one bit of recognition.
Nope.
So fucking punchable.
Definitely
so fucking punchable.
Oh my God. When he comes up, and at first when he like drives that car up in the piazza in Rome, I was like, okay, like, how funny, he's probably just, just like your regular, like, jerk. But no, he was a real dick. Wow.
My favorite scene and that he delivers as that character is when he's in the apartment with Tom, kind of, grinding down on him and getting to the bottom of it. And he keeps tinkering with the piano, and he's doing this with his hand as kind of like
dismissive.
A dismissive gesture toward him, like, oh, Tom. I was again, the casual cruelty behind it. You don't have to be toying with him, but you're toying with him. And even though Tom is kind of an anti-hero to begin with, the way he and Jude Law play the rich people who see anything that isn't rich as below them and worthy of scorn is just, it's unbelievable how much I hated that character. And again, when he bites it, why would you care? He's such an asshole.
Oh, it's funny, like this entire entitled generation too in this movie, because even Marge was like, and look at you now, Tom, with all the stuff that you have. It's like she's upset that Tom has, come into some. Yeah. And it's like, oh, like wealthy people are only supposed to be wealthy. Whereas the generation before them that actually made the money and probably didn't come from wealth, but built it, like, Tom, like Dickie's dad, and Marge's dad, like they're like willing to help somebody. You know what I mean? Like Dickie's dad is like, yeah, I think it was my son. We didn't do so great. And like, but thank you, Tom, for being his friend, even though he really doesn't understand what's going on, and Tom fucking murdered him. But like, he's willing to like help people. But this entitled generation of like rich kids that just spend their parents' money and don't do anything. It's like, fuck you. Take a bus to the head, you assholes.
I mean, I think too, I don't know if you guys watch The Gilded Age, but that's the whole plot point is new money versus old money. And so, of course, Marge, as an old money person, would look down on somebody. I mean, Tom Ripley's new money was fake, but, or somebody else's money, but, she would have that reaction as somebody with new money, and that rags to riches sort of pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of story. Yeah. So that all tracks.
But yeah, Freddy fucking hated him from the get-go. And he brought out the worst in Dickie too.
Me too.
For sure.
Yes.
Well, and it was interesting too. I just thought it was interesting too when he met up with Meredith again. And she was like, everybody knows Freddy Miles. And it's just like, and then you realize like, oh, his murder was like not great because he is, a real dick, a real asshole, but he's that type of person. And, we all, maybe not to the rich part of it, but we all know somebody like that in our lives who is just kind of that conduit, whether you like it or not. All right, last but not least, I didn't have him in here, and then I put him in here because it was a bigger part than I remember. Jack Davenport, who you might know from The Morning Show as Jennifer Aniston's ex-husband, or you might know from Smash. He's on that movie. He was on, I think, Flash Forward. I did love that show. He's like a great character actor, and he's done a million things. I don't remember him so young and fresh-faced, so that was a delight. He is Peter Smith-Kingsley, the not so closeted. Was he a pianist? Was he a concert pianist?
Either that or like conductor. I think because at the end he's conducting. Yeah.
I got a little bored towards the end. It got a little long, and I was not paying quite as much attention to Peter. Sorry, Peter.
Theater people, they're allowed to be a little bit more, open about things like that. So it's
I just thought that was so interesting because it, and I know in Europe it was probably very different. So we saw at the beginning of the movie those two guys kind of just like sitting on each other's laps,
on each other's laps.
I wish that he had come in a little bit earlier because that dynamic between Matt Damon's super closeted Tom Ripley and like his fairly open Peter Smith-Kingsley was really interesting to me.
To align with what you were saying, I think that the conversation between the two of them on the piano bench illustrates everything. Tom talks about being stuck in the basement and not letting any of the light in. And then you have parallels to that, or Peter rather, who is quite shamelessly open in a time period where this isn't really a thing, at least not in the United States. that it makes his death in the end even more shocking, because he really is everything that Tom wishes he could be and is too afraid to move into being that person.
Right, and he really fucking loved Tom. Like, he was really into him. Like, he wanted to probably, like, get married and, you know, travel the world. And, like, you know, Tom was really set up for life. And I think he still could have smoothed over the Meredith thing. Like, I don't think he had to fucking kill him at the end. Like, I think that he could have just, you know, figured something out like he always did. But that was his immediate reaction. And that was the way that he took care of any sort of rancor in his life.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know that Europe is at that time was more open to homosexuality, but I think they are less about this definition of the macho man like Americans are. Like, it's okay for guys to be close friends, like, you know, and it's fine. People can hold hands and stuff like that. It doesn't affect their manliness. Whereas in America, I mean, we all have to be John Wayne. It's just, you know what I mean? Especially in the 1950s.
Yes.
So, but getting to Peter's character, so I don't know if he was actually open about being homosexual, but I think he lived with less fear of being caught and just kind of lived a happy life instead of, you know, Tom trying to make his way in and find his happiness and stealing his happiness. I have very conflicted feelings about this movie and like what people say about this film.
Well, we're going to get to it. So actually, that's a good transition to what we're going to talk about next, which is Tom Ripley a sympathetic psychopath? Say that 5 times fast. So he's totally horrible. We've covered all of that. But I don't know. I kind of really still was rooting for him. Is that just me?
No.
I think
it's not just you.
I kind of feel like we're rooting for Tom, though, because he's in this world of horrible rich people. Like, had he been doing this in a world of people that were like at the same level of wealth that he was and that were trying to make it through the world, we wouldn't have been as sympathetic to his actions. Because, you know, the first one was tragic. The rest of the murders were calculated. He's an evil dude. From my opinion.
I don't think you're wrong, but I wonder how much of his motivation is born of Jason Bourne. is born of frustration. So we see in the early establishing shots of the movie that he really hustles to make a living for himself, and he really is committed to working hard. And then he is suddenly sucked into this life of unbelievable wealth and unbelievable privilege where they don't have to do jack shit. And he is forced to, in this world, defend who he is as a person in many ways. And so the only way to get through that is to manipulate these people and to manipulate their lives. And even with Peter, Peter can be openly gay because he's insulated by his wealth. And as I imagine Tom sees that and like, what a smack in the face that is. So they eat the rich, man. They had it coming.
Well, okay. But early on, we find out from the talented Mr. Ripley what his 3 talents are. And like their impersonation, forgery, and I forget what the last one was. Forgery is a crime, though, to begin with. Okay.
Yes.
And you know, which interests Dickie, and Dickie does it just kind of goes over his head. But so that kind of insinuates that is that the right word? I don't know. It infers. I always get mixed up on these words. I shouldn't use big words. It implies. There we go. That's what it implies. That Tom, while he might be he's good at the hustle, he's also a hustler. Like he has probably not always made money legally, which, and I'll, you know, as long as you're not killing people, I don't know that that's not necessarily so bad. As long as you're, you know, taking from the rich, I guess, if you're Robin Hood, but I don't know that's necessarily the case either. So I think there are some moral ambiguities here with Tom to begin with that just kind of gets sprinkled through. And so I, you know, after he kills Dickie and usurps his life, he's planning a lot of shit and stealing money from people now. And he just doesn't want to get caught now. Like, he didn't have to kill Freddy, but he did. At the very end, he didn't have to kill Peter. Peter was a good guy. He chose to because he didn't want to get caught. He could have actually sat down with Peter and said, you know what? I want to come out of the basement. And I actually would have preferred that ending where he tells Peter and then we close it right there and you don't know what the fuck happens.
But I don't think that would make sense in the context of the story. Like, yeah, that would be the ending. That would be probably the most rewarding in a sense. But we learn in the first 2 minutes of the movie that Tom is a manipulator and a serial manipulator at that, because he borrows someone's Princeton coat. And when someone says, my son went to Princeton, he doesn't bother to correct that misjudgment, that miscalculation. He seizes on it. And so I think that if at the end of the movie he comes clean, that erases all of the character building that comes before it. So I don't think that Peter obviously deserves to die, but I think it is in keeping with the context of the story.
I think you're absolutely correct, but it could have, for me, it could have been actual character development, because it seems like Tom is trying to build a life and find a life for himself. And that was an opportunity. It was a missed opportunity. And I think that for me, that's one of the reasons I walk away from this film and I'm like, I have really mixed feelings about it. It was kind of traumatic watching it as a closeted gay man. And I'm like, I can see myself making some of these choices. I hope I wouldn't murder somebody like intentionally later. But like, this dude had an opportunity to be happy and just decided I just didn't really want to get caught. I mean, Peter might have been like, you know what, I understand. Maybe not about Freddy, but I understand what happened with Dickie. But there's no opportunity for it. And it made me really depressed at the end of this movie.
Well, and I thought it was like a really good choice too by the director to do it in voiceover. So you don't actually see him prepping and you see him grab the tie and you know he's going to strangle him. But you don't actually see that particular murder. And I don't know, that even heightened the creepiness factor a little bit.
Yeah, because he chose to do it. You know it hurt him though. But that tells you who Tom Ripley is as a person, is that he is going to survive no matter what. Yep. Even if it hurts him, he will do it.
So I was just thinking, he's so fucking smart. I mean, I was really thinking about the scene where he got like everybody together wwithout him. And then they started talking about Dickie and Tom, even though it was the same person, and like what he could have done with all of those smarts. Kind of like, I mean, much less murderous. But I was sort of thinking about Leonardo DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can. Like what he ended up obviously like working for the FBI, but like what he could have done being born into that wealth with those kinds of smarts, and instead has to use them for deceit and all that stuff. I don't know. I just was thinking about that during the
he's obviously good with the written word too, because like he wrote all those different letters and stuff in different people's tones. Dude, become an author. Like, you might not be super wealthy, but you could like make a living.
I know. We sort of touched on this, but let's talk about the queer aspect of this movie. Did you feel like it was a little bit ahead of its time in 1999? Was it saying something that the bad guy is very clearly closeted? Like, do you take that like, oh, closeted people are bad or gay people are bad? Am I being, too facile probably? But I wanted to touch on that. Joe, you look like you have something to say about it.
Of course I do. So sometimes I think we have a tendency to read into things a little much, especially like the academic world loves to like unpack things and, look for subtext. And sometimes a giant tasty mushroom is just a giant tasty mushroom and there's nothing else. There's no there behind the there. First of all, the novel was written by a queer woman. So like she's writing about a closeted character and, he's a male, but still she knows that life of being closeted. And so I think would be pretty galling to say like, oh, Patricia Highsmith is saying that if you're in the closet, you're going to be a sociopath. I will say in 1995, when I was a freshman in college in my first semester, I was on the verge of coming out. I knew that, it was on the horizon, and I went to the college library, and I just grabbed a book off the shelf because I wanted something to read. And I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of the book is. But I don't know, halfway through the book, it's pretty clear that the protagonist is gay. And he tempts another man and eventually murders him in a car. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the straight guy tempts the gay guy into a car and murders him. I can't quite remember, but I remember it pushed me back into the closet for another solid month or so, because I was like, oh God, I'll come out and like a straight guy's going to murder me. But I don't think that that's the purpose of this movie. And I think too, like, there are bad gay people.
Right.
And so, like, this is a movie about a bad gay person. We can't pretend that just because you're in a marginalized population that you are 100% pure in all of your actions. They're bad, everybody. And I think this movie kind of, is saying that. And I also think that their unrequited love is just a theme in art to begin with. And unrequited love causes people to do crazy things. And this just so happens to be unrequited love from the perspective of a closeted gay man of the late 1950s who is also maybe has psychopath on top.
And is also a full-on psychopath.
I totally agree with Joe on that. I think the reason the movie hit me so well is that you truly feel Tom's feeling of isolation in this movie. And it's double pounded because not only a gay man in this straight world, it's because he's a not wealthy person hanging out with all these rich kids. And like, you just know he's alone. Like, he is trying desperately to fit in and it just doesn't work. And like, I feel like we've all been there. And like, if you are gay, you feel it even more a lot of times, at least, especially if you lived a closeted life. And so it's so relatable. That's why this movie was just like, it was traumatic the first time watching it.
And he's probably felt like he's never fit in. You can see the desperation in him wanting to be liked at all times. It's why he lies, because he wants to be cared for by other people. He wants to be who they want him to be. It's an
amplified thing that every person does, where you're not quite yourself all the time because you want to be part of the group. I did that a lot as a child, and actually into my 20s. Like, it took me until like my 30s to really start being me and just fuck. I don't give a shit. Especially in my 40s. Good Lord. Now I just fuck everything. But you just don't give a shit. But when you're young, you want to be loved. You want to be liked. You want to be part of the crowd. And it's really hard. Back in 1950, this time for him, I mean, it would have been awful. That's why it makes the end to me so tragic, is that he finally finds Peter, and decides to kill him. Like, okay. Murder is not the solution.
I mean, sometimes it is, but not in this instance.
Freddy, I was, rah. I would have killed him too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I don't necessarily we didn't need to kill Dickie, but like, we could seriously like fuck him up because, like, he got a girl pregnant and basically like pieced her out and she committed suicide. And you find a way to fuck him over. You don't kill him. But like, that one was a passion, a crime of passion. That was not, that was not calculated. But now I wonder how many people has Tom knocked off in his life. I mean, that we just don't know about. I was just about to ask that question do you think that was the first person that Tom killed?
Well, there's apparently a whole series.
Yeah, there's like 5 more, which is bananas.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a lot of people to kill, Tom Ripley. I hope you find peace. No, but the last one, you find some peace. That's all I got to say. But I was thinking about it and I was like, was Dickie his first kill?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we're not supposed to know the answer to that.
I mean, if it is the first kill, then that's the one that leads him down the path of murder. If it's not, then was he really intending to kill Dickie when he hit him with the oar, or was he just trying to knock him off? I mean, I don't know. That's a really good question.
Allie, where do you fall on the queer content?
I thought I thought it was interesting. I mean, Patricia, you know, I take it obviously from the like, I know Patricia Highsmith was a closeted lesbian. I mean, she wrote the book that the movie Carol is based on, you know, The Price of Salt. And, you know, so I kind of took it from that aspect where she knows the pain, she knows the suffering, she knows the ambiguity, she knows having to pretend that you're somebody else. And so I didn't take it as oh, you're queer equals bad or you're closeted equals bad. I saw it as you can be shitty, you can be gay, you could be shitty, you can be a woman, you could be shitty, you can be trans. Like there are, you know, like you said very eloquently, like just because you are a member of a marginalized community, you know what, there are bad Jews too. Like we're going to talk about one later in this episode, you know, so it's just like, that's exactly how I took it. And I did think it was interesting because what I liked about it is that it gave Tom an extra ounce of desperation that I think pushed him over the edge, because he was obviously desperate to be loved, desperate to be liked, desperate to be part of this crew, desperate to have money, whatever. But then you tack on being closeted and not understanding how to navigate those feelings in any sort of like normal, comfortable sense. Well, then that's just like a recipe for disaster, because you have this person that clearly either grew up very poor, maybe he never talks about his family, like maybe he killed his parents, maybe his parents died young. We don't know. We don't know anything about him other than where we drop in 1958. And so I liked that touch, because I think that's what like kind of pushes him over the edge. Not to say that he wouldn't be a psychopath being, you know, a straight guy, but that definitely inks it over the line for me.
Well, and the movie is so, and maybe the book, I haven't read the book, but the movie is definitely so well written and made that it didn't feel like overkill. No. It just felt like a really good motivation. Like, you know, it was added into all of this stress that's going on, which I really appreciated.
And as an honorary gay man, Allie, I think that your perspective is really important in this issue.
Thank you. Yes.
You're so welcome. You are one of my favorite honorary. No, you are my favorite honorary.
I appreciate that. And I take that. I don't take that lightly. I don't take that designation lightly, you know.
That's a responsibility that you carry with you
absolutely.
As part of the gay community, Allie.
It is, absolutely. I'm going to add that to my resume, my theater resume immediately. Okay, I'm going to combine the next 2 points into one. But first of all, Scam Nation, why are we so fascinated by scams? Why are we so fascinated by people who are scammers? I don't know if you all follow the whole Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes saga. I read the book. I listened to the podcast. I saw the movie. I did all the things. I was fascinated by her and how she like bamboozled people out of billions of dollars. And it was basically like the emperor wears, you know, the emperor's new clothes. Like there was no there. I'm fascinated by a bad Jew, Bernie Madoff, who basically like built billions of dollars in a Ponzi scheme. Also fascinated by that. I am fascinated by MLMs, multi-level marketing companies, also known as pyramid schemes. I can recommend a million great podcasts about that because it's fucking fascinating. I don't know what it is. I don't like to see people getting scammed. Like I feel bad for them. And I always feel like I am self-aware enough that I would never fall for it. But I just read a crazy article in The Cut. I will send it out to you guys afterwards about a woman who is a financial writer. That is what she does. She writes about finances, and she got scammed out of $50,000. It's fucking wild, this scam. So why are we so fascinated? I mean, are you guys fascinated as much as I am?
Yes.
Oh yeah. For me, there are 2 different kinds of scams. There's the kind that is a scam from the get-go, and the machinations behind that. I was into con movies for the longest time, like The Grifters, Matchstick Men, Criminal. I loved all of them, and so I love seeing how those machinations play out when it's an intentional scam. But my favorite is the unintentional scam, the Schadenfreude scam. So like when Caroline Calloway did all that like complete fucking nonsense, I was glued to my computer for 4 days watching that come undone. When the Fire Festival happened, I could not tear my eyes away from it. I was so into it because it is a scam in the end, but I don't think it starts as a scam. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think they actually think that they can pull something off. The Willy Wonka thing, holy fuck. Oh my God.
I've read every single article that there is. I cannot wait for that documentary.
Me too. And Dave is like held victim to me going like, oh my God, this next thing happened. I can't believe you don't know the Willy Wonka scam. Holy shit. Matt, are you serious?
Know.
Oh my God.
Well, look at it's too long to tell you now, but look it up. Okay. It's fucking nuts. It's basically like they want to do like a whole, they build it as a whole Willy Wonka experience in this like big warehouse in Glasgow, Scotland. And when people bought like 45-pound tickets, like nothing, not cheap. And when they got there, like it was like people cosplaying in like Amazon wigs and outfits. And instead of like all of this chocolate, they gave kids like a half a cup of lemonade and like 2 jelly beans. No fucking joke. I'm not exaggerating. So please look it up.
And there's a photo that went viral of one of the Oompa Loompas, and she just looks miserable because she knows that this is like a huge scam, and she didn't realize it was going to be a scam when she was hired.
Oh my God.
It's one of those. But I'm also fascinated by people who just are relentlessly evil on the inside and scam people out of things. Like, I don't think Caroline Calloway had bad intentions. I think she thinks highly of herself and thought she'd be able to pull something off where people could worship her. But Dave and I just listened to a podcast called Scamanda. And it was bananas. It was
I need 20 more episodes.
Bananas. Me too. I want to know I want to know how she pulled it off. Like, they don't get into how she pulled it off because she's kept so tight-lipped about it. But it is nuts. And MLM's the same way, like the LuLaRoe thing. Holy shit. I can't get enough of it. And here's the thing. I don't really know what it is about it. Maybe it's like the mousetrap effect, just like watching these things kind of unfold and how people get snared up into them.
So I feel like this is tangential to it because at the end, I feel like they end up being scams. We've been watching a lot of cult documentaries.
Yes.
And
the ultimate scam,
really. The ultimate scam. Like all these leaders that I hate to say hoodwink, but like hoodwink these people into believing that they're the next god, that, whatever. I think it ends up that it's a confidence game, and all of it. And that's what we're just kind of like bewildered by the idea that one person can sit down and like, or at least for me, tell me that the sky is green and convince me that it is, and I walk away thinking it, and I start telling other people, and then I get them all involved in this ridiculous thing as well. And it is fascinating because you're watching an alternate reality unravel in front of you as to like what is really going on.
Matt, we're watching it happen. We've been watching it happen since before the 2016 election. There is an ongoing scam in this country with a cult of personality. It's a fucking cult. And the rest of us are like, what is wrong with you people? How can you not see this? But, and maybe in 30 years, if we make it that long, I don't know if we're going to make it that long, there will be a 50-part Netflix series about how, half of this country got fucking
Talk
scammed.
About traumatic watching experience.
I know, honest to God.
No thanks. No thanks. All right, my last point is that it's kind of a tale as old as time for somebody to want more than what they were born into. Obviously, not everybody commits murder, but, I didn't see Saltburn, but I know what the story is about, and I know it's fairly similar to this. Y'all can talk about it. Obviously, Great Gatsby, hello, very similar. Parasite, Scam Nation and Parasite, and again, ending in spoiler, I guess, if you haven't seen it in the last, 4 years, murder in that one. My beloved Working Girl, and I think it's really interesting is that I like this twist on there's the normal rags to riches story. And, but this, obviously had some twists to it.
The funny thing about this story is it kind of goes back to your question originally. Is this Tom's first murder? Because it's like, when he takes is he just kind of a con man at heart, and he knows how to make a buck like that? And so that's why he took the job in the first place, just saw an opportunity and took it and thought, okay, well, this is a way for me to hobnob with some rich people, maybe make some connections and make some money and, and reach the good life. And then all hell breaks loose because he ends up falling in love with his mark? Or is he scamming from the beginning to like, okay, I am going to ride this out and take as much money from this as possible, regardless of what's going to happen. I don't really know what his motivation was in the beginning, and it's ambiguous, and which makes the story even more interesting because you don't know what's happening at the end.
Because like for me, it's just that's real quick that's a real quick succession of murders if you've never murdered before. Like all of a sudden, like you murder one person and then you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna murder 3 additional people. Like that is just
I don't know, maybe murder is like Lay's chips. One's not enough.
So. I don't know. Is your brain still altered in that moment? I don't know. I mean, these are all rhetorical questions, but I don't know.
I've never killed anybody, so I can't answer the question for you, but
I suppose now if I don't say that I've never killed anybody, people are just going to wonder. So, for the record, I haven't killed anybody either that I know of.
Me either. I feel like I should say that on camera. Okay, are you guys ready for some fun facts?
Yes.
100%.
Tom purchases a bust of the Emperor Hadrian. Hadrian had an obsessive affair with the Greek Antinous, who died under mysterious circumstances while sailing, possibly killed by the emperor in one of his famous fits of anger. Dun, dun, dun.
That's awesome.
Is this the Hadrian of the titular wall?
I believe so. I've always wanted to go to Hadrian's Wall. I've never been. Yeah.
Me too. Road trip.
Is this why they were also in Rome? Because Roman emperors, were also a lot of them were kind of gay. So
yeah, who knows?
Seems like an intentional.
I mean, they shot other than the scenes in New York, they shot this entire movie in Italy, which just made me want to live in Italy even more than I already wanted to.
Vacation and a job. Nice.
I mean, right? Oof. Cate Blanchett, Matt Damon, Jude Law, and Gwyneth Paltrow would later join the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Hela, Actor Loki, Jon Rogue, and Pepper Potts, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get that cash money.
I hadn't even thought about that they all are in there.
Yep. Thanks, IMDb trivia page. I didn't figure that out either.
I mean, everybody's eventually going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Correct.
So it doesn't.
Correct. To prepare for the role of Ripley, Damon lost 30 pounds and learned to play the piano. Law gained weight and learned to play the saxophone for his character. He also broke a rib when he fell backward while filming the murder scene in the boat.
Ooh.
Jude Law gained weight? He was already kind of like a Twinkie otter to begin with. How much did he weigh before this?
I don't know.
role?
But also I read that Anthony Minghella sent him to Italy early so that he could get a tan and learn how to sail. And I was like, really fucking hard-ass job.
Now I know why he was fine on page 45.
Right? Let me bankroll you to go to Italy for a couple of months so you can learn to sail and get a tan. Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Cruise, and Christian Bale were considered for the role of Tom Ripley. Now, Christian Bale would go on to later play another famous psychopath, Patrick Bateman, of course. So I probably see the closeness of that. But none of these have that sort of working man aura like Matt Damon.
I could have seen Leonardo playing Jude Law's character. But I could not have seen him playing Tom Ripley. Tom Cruise is just too old. At this time, he was already
and he doesn't have that. He wasn't born into privilege either, Tom Cruise, but that's a scam in and of itself, the whole Tom Cruise and Scientology. But,
talk about cults.
Yeah. Yikes. Don't cancel me. But yeah, I don't see, Christian Bale again, closest, but he had his own due in American Psycho, so that's a fucking
I don't know that any of them.
if you haven't read that book, woo, that is a book.
Oh yeah, I tried to read it.
It's real fucked up.
Wasn't my
Too stabby.
10 pages of a torture scene wasn't for you.
No, it was a lot. Yeah.
And last but not least, after viewing this film, Tommy Wiseau was so emotionally moved that he vowed to make a film just as, if not more compelling, this film would become The Room. I've never seen The Room, but I know I know the story of The
Oh
Room.
my!
Should I?
I have seen The Room. Oh my God, yes, I've seen The Room so many times. I can quote large passages from it, and let me tell you what a real treat is. So watch The Room, and then watch The Disaster Artist. Make it a double feature, because it is brilliant. And I actually think that I think The Room it's one of those movies that is, it's a cult classic because it's so bad it's good. But you can't even say it's good. It is just bad. It is gobsmackingly bad. And I did not know that he was inspired by this movie. But now that I know that, I can see the connection that he was trying to make. It is just awful. But I love The Room. I mean, clearly, I've watched it at least half a dozen times. Like, I legitimately love how bad the movie is.
I know they always have like showings in the movie theater. They're always like, people are like coming together to watch this movie. I just have never watched it.
I don't want to watch it with other people, but you know, Allie, I want your first time to be with me. I would love to break your room, Carrie.
Done and done.
So, are we talking Valley of the Dolls bad? Like, or what are
worse? You have nothing will prepare you for how bad The Room is. Literally nothing will prepare you. The Valley of Dolls actually has a narrative through line that makes sense. That one cannot say that about The Room.
Yeah, because I love the Valley of the Dolls because it is so over the top horrible.
Me too. No, we're not talking campy. This is not like Valley of the Dolls, Mommy Dearest camp. It is
like everybody takes himself very seriously in this movie. Okay.
Oh yes, and he tried to pass it off later as like a dark comedy, like he intended it, but no, it is filmed with like the most serious, like high art is what he thought this was going into it. Oh God, it's so good.
All right, I can't wait.
So you were laughing at them, not with them.
Oh yeah, you are really laughing at them, and you know how we cringe when. Cringe throughout Mr. Ripley because of the things that are happening. You cringe for an entirely different reason in The Room. Like one cringe after another. It is, yeah. You're gonna get like the secondary embarrassment.
I don't know if I can watch this.
Great, can't wait. Cannot wait. All right, gang, it's game time. Per usual, I probably made a way too complicated game, but that's just who I am as a person. So I'm sorry, not sorry. The title of this game is Be Your Own Ripley. So it's also going to be kind of like a little bit of a social experiment. You're going to be your own Larry David. So it's you, but you could be an actor. You could be somebody else, but it's, your person. You're going to pick a famous couple from any genre to sort of horn your way into their lives. Who are you picking? If they are actors, are they playing themselves? And what fabulous location are you setting this in? And if you wanted to have a director or a screenwriter, please feel free, but that's just extra credit. So I'm going to go with our guest first. So Joe, you are up.
So I initially misunderstood the assignment and I had something all laid out. And I had this this whole scenario that was absolutely going to get me canceled because I thought you meant like in a movie and insinuating yourself into the movie. But then once we talked off camera and off recording, I decided it just took me a while to come up with it. But I did not choose an acting couple. I chose arguably one of the most famous couples right now. And that's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And so, Allie, try not to be surprised and disappointed at the same time. So, first of all, I'm fascinated by these two. I'm fascinated by how they got together. And also, the whole conspiracy theory is like, are they really a manufactured couple or not? So I think it'd be interesting to insinuate myself into it. I also think Travis Kelce is hot and I don't care. He's like, a furry, beefy guy and I'm into that. And also like they have such unimaginable wealth that it kind of parallels to Tom Ripley, and it'd be wild to be inserted into that world. I'm not interested in killing either of them because I am a Tate stan, and Travis Kelce is too hot to be killed in my mind. But where this would take place, I would insinuate myself into their lives while they're in Malta. My husband is obsessed with Malta. We want to go to Malta. It looks cool and also kind of fabulous at the same time, but has that rustic charm of the Amalfi Sea coast, where I think most of Talented Mr. Ripley takes place. And this is going to be directed, and I think because she has dipped her directing toes into her own music videos, I think Taylor Swift should direct me, insinuating myself into her. And
My brain hurts. I love it. Will I see it? Maybe not, but I do love it. Okay, Matt, what do you got for us?
Well, I went in a different direction. I did pick a famous couple that are, well, one of them is definitely an actor. One of them is a comedian. So I went with Scojo and Colin Jost. So I think they're an interesting couple.
Very.
He is adorable, but damn, he must be so fucking funny personally in life, because like he scored really high with scoring Scarlett Johansson. Self-made woman, like, is in everything, and I mean, just a powerful Hollywood woman. So I mean, he's arm candy now at this point.
He's Mr. Scarlett Johansson, for sure.
He is Mr. Scarlett Johansson. So they are going to be,
and knows it.
They've made money, so they're just off on the Spanish coast, just living in small towns and just living up life. And Michael Shea wants him back because, they are the power couple of SNL. So Michael Shea is going to send me to Spain to bring Colin back, is basically what's going on here. And then at the end, I end up replacing Colin, and so I am just running the weekend update with Michael Shea by accident. So
I think you would be a good foil for him.
It's going to be written and directed by Ben Stiller, because nobody knows dark comedy like Ben Stiller, and I want this to be a dark comedy, not a drama. I want this to be like, oh no, they didn't kind of stuff. Not maybe on the level of Cocaine Bear, but like a little bit more serious thread going through it. So that's why I went with Ben Stiller.
Okay, I also went in a different direction. So I'm going to take a page out of Jude Law's handbook, and I am going to be me, but I'm going to be playing a nanny, right? Oh. And I am, right? Easy peasy. And I am going to infiltrate John Krasinski and Emily Blunt's life. Right? Because they're both fabulous. And they'll play themselves in the movie. But it's going to be a very dark comedy about me, sort of like, it's going to be a little bit of like the hand that rocks the cradle. It's going to be a little bit of real life. And like the nanny is going to take over the female's life, and like maybe murder, maybe not murder. I haven't gotten that far yet, but definitely like insinuating myself into the matriarchal role in the household. And I am going to have Jordan Peele write and direct this, because we're going to give it like a little bit of a horror bent, a little bit of a Twilight Zone bent. So
I love that.
I love that. I didn't even think about my genre of my movie. I think it's going to be either a documentary or a music video.
It's going to be a musical. And Taylor's going to say, Joe, you're so amazing. Will you join my band?
Yes, Taylor. Yes, I will.
All right. Last but not least, skip, rent, or buy. Skip means I feel like a Freddy. Fuck this movie. Rent means, I could scam some people. I would feel comfortable with it. And buy means, yes, I am absolutely a psychopath. So, reverse order. Matt, are you a skip, rent, or buy on this movie?
I'm a solid rent. You definitely have to see this movie. For me, I don't know that I need to watch it again. Watching it a second time just brought up all those feelings I felt the first time as I was watching it. And it is, I want everybody to know this is a wonderfully acted, made, and performed. I mean, it just everything about this. The cinematography is great. The storyline is great. It is a perfectly well-made movie. Like, if you are looking for a movie to base off, like to look at for like how to make a movie, you watch this movie. Absolutely wonderful film. Just emotionally, I have a hard time watching this movie. So for me, it's not a buy, but it is a solid run. I think everybody should see this film.
All right, Joe.
Well, it's been, 24 years since I've seen the movie. And I think if you had asked me in 2000, I would have said a skip, perhaps. But for me, it's a buy. I really, really, really enjoyed watching this, and I would delight in watching it again, even with all of the ickiness that surrounds it, and even with like the shock of how the story unfolds. I just think it was really beautifully done and well acted.
Okay. And I am also a pretty solid red. I thought it was going to maybe be a buy going into it, but I will say I think it's probably like 20 minutes too long. And kind of the middle part of the movie got a little slow for me. And, the whole like Venice aspect, when he's like hanging out with it, like that just was that kind of lost me a little bit. So that kind of puts it under the buy edge. But I'm pleased that I chose this movie. I'm pleased that like my recollection of it, even though it was mostly nil, I did remember it being a good movie and a good movie to talk about. And so I'm pleased that I did remember that because that's obviously correct. So 2 rents and a buy, not too shabby. Next up, our last movie of 1999 and another hard right turn. We will be talking about Boys Don't Cry. I've actually never seen it.
Neither have I.
And neither has Matt. So,
oh God, you guys! Oh my God! Thank you for not inviting me. Thank you for not inviting me to guest this one because I would not watch that movie again.
I think it's going to be interesting watching it in the context of 2024, in the context of the movie, in the context of everything. So yes, that's what we got up next.
Good luck, everyone.
But thank you, Joe, as always, for being an amazing guest host. We love having you on.
Yes, thank you, Joe.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you for uncanceling
I am always pleased to uncancel you. I feel very benevolent. But this has been the Rewind Project. I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
Be kind. Rewind.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, and Google Play. Please subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. We love your comments and questions. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and via our new phone number at 202-618-2402. Thanks for listening. Be kind. Rewind.